morning. 65 and older have a combined annual income of $37 billion, and they spend most of it, to spite their children, apparently, and they tend to spend locally. But Michigan residents 50 to 64 have a combined annual income of $80 billion. And here's the opportunity. Here's the 20-year opportunity of these relatively affluent folks. Remember, this is the first generation in American history that hit their peak earning years with two earners. This is the problem and the opportunity. Michigan must accommodate its aging population. That's what we're here to talk about today, but also must retain and attract younger people. And this is, Karen talked about the livable communities. This is the crux of creating places where people can age with dignity, where people can be young with freedom, and where people can have families and interact with the whole spectrum of the U.S., the great U.S. diverse population, which is getting more diverse, more vibrant. Household categories, this is part of our target market analysis. We have households broken into 66 different categories, but for convenience, we cluster them into three big groups: young folks, old folks, and families in the middle. And you can see that younger singles and couples, way below the U.S. average, and empty nesters and retirees, significantly above. Again, just another way, looking at household rather than population, a way to look at this problem and opportunity. If you were to match up the number of bedrooms in America and the number of people who sleep any given night in America, even including all the visitors, we got a lot of empty bedrooms. If this continues, we have this threat of stagnant or declining tax base as these houses tend to decay. And we won't have the opportunity that we had during the last big crisis in the 1920s, when those mansions were no longer supportable because they were supported by staff, and no one had staff after the Depression hit, but they were located close in. So you could turn it into a rooming house and people without vehicular transportation, because there was a trolley line or a rail line. You think of all the inner neighborhoods in Detroit that once were so vibrant, so fantastic in the 1920s. They were able to shift from mansions to alternative uses and still function. We can't do that when you've got a mansion, a McMansion on the end of a cul-de-sac that you can only access by a private automobile. You have a serious problem. Obviously, the reason we have so many 1- and 2-person households is because these two huge generations are 1- and 2-person households. This 20-year period of demographic convergence, I'm not even talking about lifestyle, where just from a pure numbers perspective, these if you look at the population pyramid that demographers create, you see these two bulges, the millennials and the boomers, and they are converging the population growth during this 20-year period, and this is just the heart of it. It obviously is significant. It has legs way beyond 2024. Boomers moving down, moving back, moving out of their larger single-family house and back into the city. Those that move, of course. I mean, they're in a point now where the kids are gone, the dog has died, they're dying to get rid of that old furniture and get something that's intriguing and have the fun of furnishing again. Whereas their children are moving out and moving in. They're moving into a community location where there's a lot of social energy and activity, and the gene pool is very rich, because after all, they're trolling for partners. They're like boomers, married late, had children late compared to predecessor generations. Millennials have upped the ante on that, marrying way late, having children even later. Both seek community at this point. So here's the prescription, and this is what you already know, but let me reinforce it, because it's good to have this ingrained. Housing and unit type variety. This is absolutely key. As you know, we have too many single-family detached houses. Lofts, the huge phenomenon over the past 10 years nationally in some of our big cities, certainly in New York, has a much longer history. Hard lofts, soft lofts, glitzy lofts, tacky lofts. It doesn't, you know, you had the, I love this picture because you think of the loft dweller as being so very sophisticated and having the Corbu chairs and the minimalist paintings. Here's someone who really, well, let's face it, has bad taste. But they're living in a loft. Apartments over retail. This is, remember that picture of the elevator? This is the ideal situation for everybody, not just seniors, for everybody. You get in an elevator, you press G, and you have a cup of coffee. Or you can get a quart of milk, or if you're younger, a six-pack of beer. If you're older, you can get a replacement for your aromatic bitters that just ran out. Courtyard apartments. These have maisonettes where it's an apartment building, but the ground floor units enter onto the street, something we've had in New York forever. All those maisonettes now are doctor's office, mostly psychiatrists, but nevertheless, we introduced this to Norfolk and it's taken off across the country. The ability to live in the security of a multifamily building, but have your private entrance. Mansion apartment buildings, buildings that are small enough to fit within the context of single-family houses comfortably, but have a smaller point of entry. They could be rental, they could be sale. This is in Canton, Michigan. Townhouses, this is a classic townhouse. These are loaded from behind. That means the car is parked from an alley. This is in Denver, where there is no public right-of-way out in the front. You have a palpable sense of community. This is a very strong housing type for single women in particular because of the security. Single moms because they feel they'll know everybody, and if the kid needs to be looked after during some business meeting or a hospital visit, they have somebody built in. And then front-loaded garages. The townhouses where in many places you don't have the luxury of an alley, and you can make very attractive places. It does disrupt pedestrian traffic, but you can do that as well. Bungalows, another type that has had a huge revival over the past 15 years, done in particularly in pedestrian courts. Again, many of our clients who have built these bungalow courts find single women in particular are attracted to them. Cottages, the idea that we don't need all that room, the dramatic double height ceiling, and someone calls them the 10-second foyers. They have a purpose for 10 seconds, and that 10 seconds is when the realtor brings the prospect into the house and says, look at this foyer. That's it, 10 seconds. After that, it's a pain. And detached houses. And they don't all have to be this tight together, but it certainly helps if you're walking down to the corner to meet somebody or you want to walk to church rather than drive. Walkable mixed-use neighborhoods. This is what it all comes down to. Back to my elevator slide. We've done, as I said, Lori's done a ton of jobs here. And from Detroit to Dundee, everyone, the common thread of what we found there was a strong market for and underserved, a huge market potential was community and all of the things that implies. It equals neighborhood, and neighborhood functions at every urban scale. Dorks, which are deliberately originated retirement complexes or 50-plus developments, don't do them. Do not do them. Because these are the ones that are appealing mainly to the folks who hate the Never want to see a 14-year-old boy again. This was the builder developers' expectation for an aging population, even more of these things across the country. This is, of course, 10 or 15 years ago. And the new aging in America, there's actually, over the past 10 years, there's been a reduced population in dorks rather than an increase. And those that were on the books, many of them forced to adapt age restrictions in communities where the single-family home that generates school kids is a fiscal negative. So the only way developers could pull entitlements was to say, okay, it'll just be old people. They won't have any children. Well, they're trying to change that now. There will be more compact, all-age neighborhoods. And again, I'm addressing, for the advocates for the aging here, I'm addressing that 20-year period of 65 to 85. 85 plus, special needs housing, absolutely. We have 2 decades to leverage demographics, support and create neighborhoods that accommodate both needs and desires, both 85 plus and everybody younger, regardless of age. And the 20 years have to begin now.